So guys, it's getting ridiculous now, right now, here, right now, yeah baby, round, wow, to the mouth, get the wow, 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 get the mouth, wow, gao, jibi lao, gao, mao, jiggy, ningy, ningy, now, wow, wow, kissy, pitsy, mickey, now, lao, bow. So we are here back after that London session. It's have been a very nice and just a boring session, nothing to trade really, maybe some market mechanical buys, early buys, which would be first hands, nothing for me. As I do want to wait for the development of the daily candle closures for me to take a high probable trade, which is aligned with my daily candles, with my intraday model, and basically trading the first trade of the week to be a very nice one. As it's the first day of the week, I do not have the I do not feel that I need to take the first buys here. As already mentioned in my pre-game plan, I do want to wait for development within that buyer sensitivity areas after the major inducement, which could also be a break of that internal higher low of the daily last bullish push. And in that sense, what we do want to take in consideration for that session, which I haven't mentioned, was the lower time frame M15 external bearish leg, which we have printed. In that case, after we took some liquidity towards to the left and pushed towards the upside, price engineered a high, which caused the inducement of that high and a change of momentum, which we can see here after the inducement of bearish break of structure, mitigation towards the upside, engineering a high, inducing it, and having that follow through towards the downside and breaking the last lower low. In that sense, what we do want to take in consideration here is that we're gonna have in the upcoming weeks or days a very nice interaction between supply and demand, because on the first instance we have broke that higher low, that daily higher low, which means that in that sense our daily switched bearish from that higher low to that lower low. In that sense, very important. I do not think that the price is gonna come up here. I mean, he could, but I do not think so, due to the current position, due to the monthly time frame, which we are mentioning. The build up, inducement into mitigation should give a very nice shoot lower into the retracement of the weekly bullish push into the very nice buyer sensitivity areas and structure relevant POIs here, which you should have already marked, as I told you that. So, but what I do think is that price can interact between this last bearish push from that lower high to lower low and that buyer sensitivity area we mitigated into after the major inducement. So what is important to mark? Important is to mark the extreme supply area, which is also the higher time frame decision, as it was the last pullback, engineering a high, inducing it, which caused the bearish break of structure of the daily higher low. So it's gonna be very structure relevant POI from where sales are gonna be beautiful, in my opinion, depending on how the daily candle closures are gonna be. We're gonna get potential opportunities. For now, as we sit in discount after breaking the lower low, what we can expect from a structure cycle perspective is a retracement towards the upside. So depending on which areas, doesn't matter, we're gonna react towards the market. We just mark the internal supply areas with the liquidity below and the structure relevant one, and we interact with the markets by analyzing what the market is giving to us. But it makes sense to start a retracement. Why I think so? I think so because we took that major inducement liquidity and mitigated into that buyer sensitivity area. And we do see after the break of the internal lower low a test into that bearish leg, which would be my first liquidity target, as I as well expect the retracement towards the upside. So I do think the current position we are in are gonna be potential buys, but today I do think first hand buying would be a bit risky, in my opinion, due to the daily candle closure. I would prefer development. So going into the price action, what was my thought process? My thought process was following. As I do expect that retracement after the major inducement, the mitigation in the buyer sensitivity area, what called my attention was the break here and the test, which would be my liquidity. So as I expect that break and test to be taken out, because of the mentioned reasons, due to the structure cycle and liquidity cycle we are having here right now. My idea was potentially that price could go higher, and this was my intention in the London session, towards the upside, breaking the Asia high, which anyway is gonna be a smart money trap, or which I expect to be a smart money trap. And yeah, so after we created that lower low, after testing, price pushed up, interacted with supply area, absorbed that supply, induced lower, and continued towards the upside, breaking it. So we do see the first change in momentum, POI wise, in Asia. And from here now we see that last internal bearish leg, the lower high which has been created, broke structure and tested the block here. So I have a very nice block with that test, which is calling my attention, which is gonna be my objective, and which I'm looking price to go towards to. And after I saw the price has printed some traps, being the first one, the mitigation here into that smart money trap, potential smart money trap, as it's break and test liquidity and above the bearish objective, which is my block, I expected price to induce down. Price induced down, and beautifully after Asia low failed to create a low, having a divergence, which is calling my attention. So this is trap number 2, and this was the inducement of Asia low towards the downside. And after seeing that big expansion, big bullish pressure, big bullish pressure coming in after the Asia low inducement and the divergence, you could have potentially market mechanical wise buy towards these areas, towards the upside, because you have your objective, you have your liquidity cycle below, you know, from structure cycle wise it makes sense to have a retracement, you have beautiful intraday structure and liquidity storytelling. So after aligning these 3 traps, being the first one smart money trap here, then the build up of trend line second, and the third one the inducement down, this is giving me conviction that price could expand higher towards this objective, and from this objective give any reaction and develop. So looking into the M5, after having that Asia low inducement, you are having or let's go to the M1, you have the first interaction with the supply area, absorbing, failing to create a low, push higher into that potential smart money trap area. Why? Because it's the first supply area which caused price to have that inducement. So this objective can hold and push price higher. And as well, we can see beautifully at 9016 a minor inducement after a mitigation into that supply, mitigating lower into the supply to demand area with nice bullish candles, being very nice engulfing candles, especially on the M3. Let's see, which could have been a market execution, because you have your criterias being time window, inducement, story, the context, and lower time frame confirmation, being the minor inducement and engulfing, and you could have market executed here in my opinion. But looking into that, it's not a model. A model would be Asia high continuations towards the upside, in that sense a mitigation of Asia high, a nice low which has been engineered here, inducement of that low mitigating into that nice buyer sensitivity area, being the supply to demand from where we can get reactions and a potential trade. But it didn't occur in the time window, and therefore I called it a session. I was done, and this was my small thought process. I still expect price to induce that engineered low, mitigate into that buyer sensitivity area, and continue towards the upside to start that retracement. And yeah, that's it.